Hello and welcome back to the Championship Lowdown. I'm joined again with Tom this week. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Ollie, you all right, man?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, thank you, very good. Just got back. I had a Burns night pizza, of all things, so I've had a haggis pizza.
Very nice.
Perfect fuel for talking about the Championship.
I'm quite jealous of that. That's a cracking start.
And Iron Brew ice cream as well.
Oh, man, he's living the dream, this kid. He's living the dream.
I know, better than it sounds. So there you go.
So first and foremost, before we get underway, I just want to mention that there's a lot of people who watch this podcast on YouTube who do not subscribe to us. So if you would subscribe to us, we'd really, really appreciate that.
You would love
We've got
that.
about 80 or 90% of you guys who are watching these streams are not subscribed to our videos. So if you would subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. So if we thought the Championship were running out of ideas in the 2025 season, I think this weekend has just proved us wrong. Obviously, we're deep into January now. Transfer window's creaking shut, nerves are fraying a little bit, and the league table's starting to tell some uncomfortable truths for some teams. And whispering some nice little promises to other sides, Hull City, not to mention. I just think we're stripping back the noise a little bit this week and deep diving into 6 games that have stood out for us in the Championship. We've got the Hollywood ending in West London that you couldn't make up. We've got a little bit of a mutiny brewing in East Midlands. We've got a South London derby, which was a bit of a demolition, and a really chaotic clash in Sheffield. So without further ado, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go straight down to the game at the Den. And I think if you're a Charlton fan, it might be an idea to look away now. If you're a Millwall fan, you've probably watched the highlights already a number of times. So I think what's gone on at Millwall, I've been a little bit critical of them at times this season, but I watched this game at the weekend and they were absolutely incredible. Blowing away Charlton 4-0. Goals from, there was an early own goal, wasn't there, from Kane Ramsey, Caleb Taylor, and then a late show, really, from Luke Cundle and Adaimo Emaku. But I think that 4-0 result for Millwall really, really told the story, and I thought it could have been a hell of a lot more. Charlton were really, really poor. Millwall were phenomenal. Aziz was absolutely running the show like he has been doing recently, and 5th in the table. And for the first time in absolutely ages, Millwall are on plus goal difference.
Sky really is falling in, isn't it? It's incredible. It was fully deserved as well. 4-0 absolutely does not flatter Millwall at all. If anything, it should have been 4 by around the hour mark, at probably the latest. Yeah, we could throw in any adjective we like. Demolition is kind of the one that springs to mind. It was relentless. Aziz was just phenomenal. Langstaff is working really well as that sort of supporting 10, half 9. Just credit to Alex Neil, because that looked the furthest thing away from what he did at Notts County, and he wasn't working out at all before this. Ivanovic, off the bench. Coburn forced the own goal, but probably missed a sitter, which contributed to it not being an even worse scoreline for Charlton. And it didn't necessarily look easy for Millwall. I think they just looked brilliant, and I think that's maybe the most encouraging thing. Is I think Charlton were quite poor, but Millwall were not sat around in sort of second, third gear. They really put the throttle down. Still missing a whole bunch of players as well, just a load of players, but getting players like Denore back, who played most of this game as well, is a massive boost. And as they get more players back, there's no reason to think that it won't continue pretty well. The result a couple of weekends ago against Watford as well, kind of coming in as a bit of a surprise, and you kind of think, well, maybe the wheels will just stay on the road.
That's it. And there's a bit of a gap emerging now, isn't there, from sort of 5th, 6th to 7th. They've got a bit of a comfort zone in there, and I think, like I've said, I've been critical of Millwall at times this season and saying that they're just like the typical throwback team. But this weekend just showed that they were all about the football, and fair play to Alex Neil for setting out that stall. It looked at the start of the game like they were kind of set out to bypass midfield and hit Charlton in those wide areas. But I just think the tone was set from a real early stage in this game for Millwall. And like you say, it could have been 4-0 after 40 minutes. And for it to finish 4-0 at the end was nothing to do with Charlton. It was all down to Millwall missing those chances and not capitalising on that. So who knows, on another day, this could have well been 8 or 9. And it would, Charlton wouldn't have had no complaints going into that as well. Just to talk about Charlton as well a little bit. I mean, what is going on there? What's going on at Charlton?
It's so hard to say because you look through it. There are a few injuries, but there's no sort of nothing more than anyone else is dealing with. Sort of 3 or 4. You know, they've gone to bat for Jones. You know, they've got a decent looking side. Chambers came in. Obviously, I think he was hooked at halftime, which tells a story in itself. But left wing back, you've got Lyndon Dykes in there. You've got Clark at right wing back. So they've gone out. They've made signings. They've got players that look like they should fit for Nathan Jones. It's a very Nathan Jones team, but I think we're seeing what happens when that doesn't work. It looks really, really bad, and I think he certainly deserves the chance to get them out of it, given the promotion season and given we know he can do it at this level, and the team does look oriented for him. But we were just talking about the table there. It's starting to take shape. And if any of those teams below them start to pull their finger out a little bit, like Oxford United, Jones is not far away from being under some pressure. I think he's just okay for now. But it's not looking good.
No, it's not. And a really interesting game up next again for Charlton is against Leicester. So obviously another manager under pressure in Martí Cifuentes, and I think that could be a real crunch game. We could really see another managerial sacking after that game, depending on which way that result goes. But moving on then, so we've talked about the Millwall demolition of Charlton. We're going to go up to Teesside, another demolition job. This time, Kim Hellberg's Middlesbrough, quietly, or maybe not so quietly anymore, becoming the most dangerous team in the league. And they welcome Preston to the Riverside, who conceded 3 the week before against Hull City. They've conceded 4 this week, and they've had 2 red cards in subsequent weeks. So it's looking a little bit shaky for Preston, who now find themselves in 9th, and obviously they're falling away a little bit from the playoffs. Goals from Alan Brown, a brace from Tommy Conway, and Morgan Whittaker obviously getting involved in the goals as well. So Borough coming into it, chasing the league leaders, Coventry. Preston obviously sat now in 9th, but it's a real interesting sort of, is it becoming a 2-horse race in the Championship now? Obviously with Ipswich falling away a little bit this weekend, but what goes on now? How do Middlesbrough push on?
I think this was the perfect game for Middlesbrough. I mean, I can't pretend I watched the Preston Hull game, so perhaps you can tell me a bit more about how they were there. But the goals were really
not good. If I'm honest with you. Yeah, like I say, it just seems like they've hit a bit of a stumbling block of Preston, and I don't know, they just seem a little bit lacking in confidence.
Yeah, and they played into Middlesbrough's hand here. Middlesbrough, a high press team, that's what they want to do under Hellberg. All of the goals were pretty horrendous from a Preston backline perspective. That's how Story got himself sent off, getting caught on the ball again. A lot of the goals coming from that high turnover, apart from obviously a lovely sort of running behind from Conway, and it was a really nice find from Target to Alan Brown for the first. But they just kept getting caught at the back, really elementary stuff. No one to go long to now. Osmajic has got himself red carded for the 900th time. What you do with that guy. I mean, just to touch briefly on that, because I don't think we've had a podcast where we've spoken about it actually. I think John Lundstrom clearly knew what he was doing in that game, but he really, really sought out Osmajic as the guy who was definitely going to bite to it, didn't he? And did he bite? Wow. It's lucky he didn't actually bite in this case.
It wouldn't have surprised you if he did, though.
No, it really wouldn't. But it's one of those. Preston had a really poor day. They gave away all the goals, and Middlesbrough just made the most of all of it. Lovely to see Tommy Conway getting a few goals. I think he scored in midweek as well. Sort of much maligned for that, but very hard worker. And yeah, if you're gonna play out from the back really badly, Middlesbrough are going to win by a lot of goals. So they stretch ahead. They'll face tougher challenges, better defences, and I think that's where you'll see a little bit more. But Preston just need to get back to basics almost a little bit. They seem to have fallen off there.
That's it. I mean, what Preston often do was just make it hard for them to beat. They're that physical side. They're that side who are hard to break down. And for some reason, it just seems to have fallen away a little bit for them. So 3 defeats in a row now for Preston. It's looking a little bit ominous for them to sort of get back into that playoff charge. Middlesbrough had a stat against Preston at the weekend. Their passing accuracy was 90% in that game. That is absolutely unbelievable statistics from Kim Hellberg's side. And it's Premier League standard retention, isn't it? So when you're coming up against like a team who are playing like that in Middlesbrough, Preston have got no chance. I don't care who you are.
And Middlesbrough's quality, you can maybe question them. Sounds weird, they scored 4, but going forward, right, they've got good Championship forwards, but I wouldn't say any of them are Premier League necessarily ready, proven at least. But you've got Hayden Hackney, who's wanted by everyone with £30 million in their back pocket. Target and Ayling have shown it in the Premier League. They might not be massively high standard Premier League players, but they can do it. Malander is very good on the ball. I love Aidan Morris. Just as a footballer, again, brilliant for his retention. So yeah, that whole sort of those 2 banks of 4, if you like, very, very good.
That's it. And obviously Middlesbrough now up to 55 points, only 3 behind Coventry, obviously played on Monday night at Norwich. Like we said, is it becoming a 2-horse race with Ipswich falling away a little bit? Obviously they lost at Sheffield United. So do those 2 teams now in Middlesbrough and Coventry just pull away from that chasing pack? Because there is a bit of a gap, imagine.
There is a bit, but I don't think so. Again, as we probably mentioned before, I think the quality of Middlesbrough and Coventry is high, but I don't think it's unreal. Like I can see Middlesbrough winning 2, drawing 1, losing 1, winning another 2, that kind of rhythm. And we'll talk about the Ipswich Sheffield United game at some stage, but I don't think they were that bad against Sheffield United either. So a little bit too early to call. But yeah, Ipswich got to get a handle on that quite quickly.
That's it. Like you said, 16 games left in the season. Championship is absolutely ridiculous this season in terms of competitiveness, and everyone is just beating everybody. Like we'll talk about in our next game, where we go down to talk about Leicester City. Leicester City, man. If we're talking about a team who are absolutely a picture of health in Middlesbrough, Leicester are like a club on life support, aren't they? The atmosphere at the King Power on Saturday, toxic, really, really nasty. They lost 2-1 to Sheffield, to Oxford United, and we could be coming towards the end finally for a lot of Leicester fans, they would say, of the Martí Cifuentes era.
He's gone, don't we? I think.
Is he gone? Has he gone?
I think this afternoon, yeah.
I didn't see that. I saw that he was on the brink, but I didn't see that he'd gone.
I think it got confirmed. This is live.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, live on the pod. Yeah.
Gone.
Wow, there you go. So Leicester may have their own way. So who do Leicester bring in then, first and foremost, to replace Cifuentes and to get the most out of the quality they've got in that side? Because they really do have a quality side. It's just, how did they get them playing? How did they get that confidence back at the King Power?
And I think part of the question then relies on, well, what can they afford? Because reading some of the stuff around Cifuentes going just very quickly before we jumped on, was he took a pay cut to join Leicester from QPR. Now, QPR don't pay nothing; they're in the same division, but Leicester have parachute payments. They're a Premier League team. They a notable pay cut to the point where it's in an article shouldn't really be what happens there, but. Then look, Leicester still have unbelievable quality and should be doing better. But I think that shows a little bit of that toxicity we talked about, watching the highlights back. As soon as Harris scores, the boos start raining down. And there's clearly no or little money flying around there, and you wondered just how bad is it behind the scenes. What are the players having to deal with on a daily basis, and that can be difficult to quantify. And everything's just kind of coming home to roost. You saw Page starting in midfield. We love seeing academy boys starting in midfield, and he's very, very highly rated for sure. And then you've got someone like Samare on the bench, and how much did he cost again? And you're kind of thinking there's so much waste, so much kind of going on behind the scenes that it's tough to see who you go an older head to try and get everyone back on board and just focus the minds, or do you get a breath of fresh air? I just don't see this as being the environment for a younger, more exciting manager. I think they just end up flailing a bit.
I can't see now how they can go for an experiment. They can, and it's shown in a couple of sides this season in the likes of West Brom, where they've tried it with Ryan Mason, and it just doesn't work. And in all honesty, I don't know who Leicester go for. I don't really know who's out there. I don't really know who fits the mould at Leicester. We know that they've got quality in the side. Fatawu obviously scoring a decent goal later on, but the game was already gone for Leicester at that point. And you just thought, I think now, obviously, they've got a real decision to make of Leicester, and it really is who do they bring in to get the best of this side? The players of Mavididi, you've got Reed in there, Fatawu, Chowdhury, decent side, and they're 14th in the Championship, and we know that there's potentially an overarching points deduction on the cards here with Leicester. There is obviously some sort of financial problems overhanging them, but what manager gets the best out of this Leicester side? And I don't think that's an easy question to answer.
It's really tough, and I'm just pulling up the betting markets quickly, and they don't seem to know, because you've got Russell Martin as aside from Andy King, Russell Martin is the favourite. I think that would be a very, very risky appointment. As I still think there's a good manager there in Russell Martin. Don't get me wrong, but that's Marmite at a time when you just need plain toast. Really, that's not it. You've got Steven Gerrard, Lee Carsley, Robbie Keane, Gary Rowett, Skubala. I kind of like Skubala as a shout for that, but if I'm Skubala, I probably wouldn't take that job, given it's going fine with Lincoln and he'll be linked with better jobs with more money, maybe. So it's so tough. Even going through those names, no one jumps out apart from maybe Gary Rowett, but I don't.
I was literally just going to say the only person who you mentioned there from that betting group is Gary Rowett. He knows the division. I don't know if Leicester fans would want it. Maybe they'd want him till the end of the season, but I can't see them wanting him long term.
No, and he was literally sacked by Oxford, who should probably reference did exactly what you should be doing, really, going to Leicester. You're going to have less possession, take really good long throws. It's a really good long throw routine that got them the goal. Second goal on the break from a Leicester corner. Generally pretty solid throughout. Restricted Leicester to mostly second, third phase set piece chances. Pert Harris looked pretty good. Really good performance from McConnell as well, coming in from Mansfield, where he was on loan. Gives them a little bit more rotation there. Bloomfield, I think, has got some pretty solid foundations. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, I quite like the look of the Dickie Ismaker as well. I think he's a good player, and they've given themselves a little bit of a chance now. They're only what, sort of 3 points outside. Well, they're in 3 points inside of the relegation zone. But next up for Oxford, they've got Birmingham City at home, who are notoriously terrible travellers in this division. So who knows? Maybe Oxford are giving themselves a little bit of a chance.
Absolutely. And I think that's the sort of stick or twist. They did this literally last season with Gary Rowett, and it ended up working and finding a system. And Bloomfield, I think, was not great at the start of this season, but he was pretty good towards the end of last season with Luton. They were running at almost a playoff kind of clip. It just really ran out of steam, had too much to do. So there is no reason why, with a bit of positivity, maybe a signing or two more, that Oxford couldn't really trouble some of those teams above them.
Yep, I'd go with that as well. So moving on, we're going to go to the MKM Stadium, and I'm going to put a bit of a smile on my face because Hull City are flying at the moment. They're absolutely flying. They just keep finding ways to win. The first half against Swansea, they were absolutely fantastic. Penalty from Ollie McBurney and an absolute screamer from Regan Slater. Football loves a script, doesn't it? McBurney was always going to step up and put that penalty away against Swansea. I'm really, really glad that he celebrated as well, which was really, really nice. But what the hell was Ben Cabango doing for that penalty? He just looked like he's turned to volleyball.
It's just crazy, isn't it? It's just goes to show so much of the game really is your sort of what you're thinking about, right? It's so much of it is mental, because what is he doing? There's no need.
There was no pressure on him whatsoever. All he had to do was just knob the ball out for another corner, and then you defend that, you can move away from it. But it's not as if he just put his hand up a little bit. He literally reached his arm at full length to knock it out. I just couldn't get my head around it. Second half, I thought Swansea were that far, far, far better team on any other given day in the first half. Zambi Potnik had 2 gilt-edged chances where on any other given day,
first one is
he scores both. Well, it's an open goal from 3 yards out, isn't it? And he pings it wide. Second one's a little bit more difficult, but a player we play with his confidence and a player who's on the run of form that Zambi Potnik's on, you'd expect both of those chances to be going in, and neither of them did. So maybe Hull City can thank the lucky stars a little bit. They are finding ways to win, but at the moment, Hull City are the form side in the entire English divisions, and we are currently sat really, really nicely in 4th. Having won 8 out of the last 9 games, we're absolutely flying. Who knows? Where's the sky for Hull City? Where is the sky for Hull City? We've brought in you from Bristol City. We've brought in Kieran Dowell from Rangers. All while we're under embargo. We're looking at Toby Collier on loan or maybe even permanent, I've heard. And I saw that we were linked with Paddy McNair as well. So if we can bring in those players and shore up those positions, could Hull City have a tilt at the automatic playoffs?
They could.
Automatic promotion, sorry.
Yeah, no. I got the, and yeah, definitely. But I wonder how sick are you as Hull City fans of hearing the words XG?
I love it. Because I think we're 17th in the XG League, and it's fantastic that we keep having this conversation. The amount of times I've seen this season from opposing fans, Hull City, the worst team we've played this season. I love it. We're 4th in the league. Long may it continue as being the worst team in the division if we keep beating these teams. It must say a lot about them.
And it might be good news that if anyone here does enjoy their stats and has read Soccernomics, the league table does lie. It absolutely does lie, and it can lie for up to 18 months. So there is no reason why it can't carry on in extremis. But if you keep giving open goals to strikers, sometimes you get lucky, and all of the strikers have terrible days against you. It does happen. Football is a low-scoring game, but that won't go on forever. And I think what will tell is, and it's good to get more bodies in the building. Paddy McNair sounded like he's pretty much done. Very, very solid player at this level. Was pretty respectable in MLS, and the rest of the signings as well be really useful. What will be the tell, I think, is when Hull do lose. And when they lose, because there is the potential that they could lose a game quite heavily. They get unlucky in front of goal themselves, and they ship a few. And what will be very telling is how do they bounce back from that? Because I think the numbers suggest that Hull will lose a couple of games and potentially.
I would well imagine we're not going to go unbeaten for the rest of the
It seems likely, but the response to that is going to be very, very telling, I think.
The concerning thing for me is the next game where we have is Blackburn, and the last time we played Blackburn, when we were on a decent run of form coming into it at the MKM Stadium, they absolutely blew us away. Albeit we did have a few players who were out with illness, but Blackburn have been horrendous this season. So it just goes to show that I've still got this mentality about it. We have a thing in our fan base, and we call it typical City, and it's one of those things where we come up against a side who we're expected to beat, and we just play appallingly. And Blackburn are next up. So we have the typical City potential coming up against Blackburn. One thing I will say is in that game against Swansea at the weekend, Lawrence Vigouroux, James has mentioned it briefly already about him being the best keeper in the division. It would be hard to argue that with some of the saves that he pulled off against us at the weekend. He made an unbelievable double save from you and from Kyle Joseph in the second half, where it looked like either of those chances, I say chances, the shot from you from distance, but he got a lot of venom on it. And then Joseph was right on it. Brilliant double save from Vigouroux. What a player that guy is.
Yeah, finally getting his flowers at a higher level, because I don't think, even though he's been sort of highly touted for a while, he's played at the Championship regularly at all until basically, was it this year, maybe last year? So, very highly rated, impressive in his 30s, finally showing it at near the highest level. Yeah,
near the highest level. I mean, what was said about Swansea, second half, I thought they were absolutely phenomenal. Thought they were so good in that second half. Played some really, really good football. I don't think Swansea need to worry. I think they carry on playing like that, and Matos has got them pairing a little bit. I think it just obviously on another given day, those chances go in, they win that game, and then they're a lot further away from the relegation places than what they are at the moment. I think Swansea will be absolutely fine. They'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, no, exactly. Another day they win that game, and we're talking about them looking further up the table rather than further down. So very few concerns about Swansea. And yeah, they go to Watford next, and Watford are not brilliant at home at the moment. So see how they do there.
Absolutely. Moving on. Big heavyweight clash of the weekend, really. Sheffield United against Ipswich Town. Two teams that obviously expecting to be in the Premier League conversation, and it delivered a lot. It delivered goals, it delivered quality, it delivered controversy, it delivered a red card. But Patrick Bamford, been a revelation for Sheffield United, hasn't he? He's signed for them. He's stayed there. He's staying there until the end of the season. He won Player of the Month for them. Starts as captain, scores a goal, and then gets sent off.
Oh, and it's the dive. The dive is so poor. It's so poor. It's the kind of thing where Patrick Bamford's one of those players where we're in your head. He can still kind of feel like he's quite a young guy, but he's in his early 30s now. Come on, man, you can't. That was a pretty obvious and poor. Lovely goal, and he has been excellent. It's just a shame to mar it with some real silliness. To be fair, I think the game as it went was one where Ipswich shouldn't be maybe too worried, maybe worried about not taking their chances, and maybe I think is the problem. So I don't think they were awful at all. I think Sheffield United were just very clinical, and that happens when you play against a good team. Sheffield United, if they'd had Wilder all season, they certainly wouldn't be where they are. They'd be much higher up. And if you don't take your chances against good teams, you are going to get punished. And that was the case with Ipswich. It shouldn't happen that often, given the quality of player that they have, ultimately. So as long as they bounce back quickly, they can write it off as a rare off day. But fair play to Sheffield United, who again had themselves a rare off day and bounced back.
That's it, and we've spoken about obviously Sheffield United to keep an eye on them coming up the league. I think it's getting a little bit. It's coming to a point now where I think that top six are maybe just pulling away a little bit too much. Albeit there are 16 games left of the season, so potentially they can go on a little bit of a run and maybe got an outside chance of getting in them playoffs, depending on how they get on. Really, I think Ipswich, like you say, I don't think there's much to read into this for them. Again, another day, they take their chances, they win the game. I think it's just a little stumbling block for Ipswich. They've obviously signed really, really well again. They added already up to an already riddled with quality side, and they're certainly going to be giving that top two a real run for their money come the end of the season. And like we've already touched upon, they're coming up against Preston in the next game, who are conceding goals for fun. So I think obviously Ipswich will be going into that game and feeling really, really confident of turning it round after that defeat at Sheffield United. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they just add so much quality. I mean, and Mehmeti, whether he comes in and plays the 10 or the wide sort of left player, he's maybe second or third choice in either of those positions, and he's been one of the best 5 players in the Championship this season. Maybe you'd say.
I'd go with that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and you can write this one off as a small stumble, but there's really no excuses.
I just thought the real funny thing, just to talk about the dive, was Wilder's reaction after the game when he said, "There's contact there, you can see it." What on earth, Chris Wilder? What are you talking about? We all know he's in there to sell tickets, and he's box office, isn't he? But Chris Wilder, come on,
he's protecting his player, his captain, no less. But good management, delusional press conference
from Chris Wilder. Delusion. You must be joking, Tom. You must be joking.
It never did.
Right. So we're going to go into our final game of a deep dive, and we're going to go down to Loftus Road. Where else could we go? And we go across to West London. And if you wrote this as a script for a movie, the producers would say it was too cheesy, wouldn't they? But it's Wrexham, so you can't not do it, And to go to Loftus Road and to be under the caution, to be losing going into those final stages of the game, you would write them off. But as we've spoken about all season, with Phil Parkinson's Wrexham side, they never, ever know when they're beaten. And Josh Windass, man, wow.
I mean, it's a lovely finish. The way he gets his leg up there, and his technical ability has always been just phenomenal, really quite special. I think it's he was just in the middle of the box from a corner, just no one anywhere near him. And I think that is partly the chaos from Mbenge getting himself sent off pretty stupidly, to be honest. Really poor challenge from him in the latter stages of the game, and QPR dealt with it badly. The marking from the set piece, and Wrexham dealt with it impeccably because they never know when they're beating them, and their mentality is incredibly impressive. Aside from the individual quality, it's their most impressive trait, because the game itself, but I would say QPR probably shaded it just about. It wasn't a game with loads of chances. It wasn't super high quality, not to be offensive to either side. It was just one of those kind of games that it looked like QPR were going to just about shade. But when you've got just so much quality, and when there's a bit of disorganisation, and Ollie Rathbone just decides he's going to show up, just incredible strike, just absolutely incredible striking scenes there.
At that time in the game as well, it opened up for him a little bit, and obviously Parkinson said Wrexham smelt blood, and there was only one winner after that, and it just seemed that it just put Wrexham's tails up, and they just went for it. And like I say, fair play. They're currently now sat in 6th in the league, and the next game is against Sheffield Wednesday. So this run for Wrexham's going to go on, you would think.
Probably, and if they're going to spend another 15 million on another striker, then where does it end? Does it end at all? And having that mentality of just, we don't know when we're beating, we never stop. That's pure playoffs. That's pure playoffs, and there's absolutely no reason they shouldn't find themselves in those playoffs at this point. The squad depth is there, the quality is there, the mentality is there. Okay, the performance over 90 minutes today was not stellar. But it doesn't have to be every week. Especially when you have special players and moment players. So they should be looking at the playoffs. And they spend another 15 million. They really should be there.
And like you say, it's a run of games now. Well, like I said, if Sheffield Wednesday next at Hillsborough, and then they've got 2 home games against Millwall. All right, Millwall are playing really, really well, so that's going to be a tough game. But it's 2 playoff sides, and then they're at home against Ipswich, another playoff side. So we've got a couple of home games for Wrexham here, which could really tell the tale of their season. So if they can get results against these, against certainly the game after Sheffield Wednesday, if they can get points out of Millwall and Ipswich, you've really got to give them a chance at these playoffs. And I think, the story just continues to write itself, doesn't it? The promotion after promotion after promotion. Are we really going to back against another one?
I've said this before, I've stopped backing against them because they keep winning, even when they're playing sort of quite averagely today. They win. It's amazing. Everyone's talking about how great they are. And you kind of have to go, yeah, they are. So, and especially if they get in the playoffs, it's a bit scripted at that point, isn't it? They get into the playoffs, and you just wouldn't bet against them at all.
I'd agree, and like I say, I think it's the next games after the Sheffield Wednesday one, because you would expect them to go to Hillsborough and get a result. Yeah. I think after that, that's where it lies for Wrexham. Let's see where they are after those 2 games, and then we'll see if they're still in the playoffs. But massive for Wrexham. I think they're having a fantastic season. We spoke about it a few pods back when they started to hit a little bit of a lull, and James and I was talking about potentially Parkinson losing his job. I certainly wouldn't want to see that now. And we all thought that he may have hit his ceiling in the Championship. We've never seen him play at this level before. I mean, I'd seen him manage Hull City, long time, yeah. And fair play to the guy, because he's certainly got this side ticking. And like we've said, they're just full of character, aren't they? And who knows how far he can take this side, because very exciting, very, very exciting times down at the racecourse. So we are going to talk about the remaining fixtures. Actually, I think what we'll do first is let's preview Monday night's game. So we've got Norwich against Coventry. So Norwich turned the corner a little bit under Clement, and Coventry have hit a little bit of a lull again. They've given themselves an opportunity to do this. I've spoken about it a few times. They've allowed themselves these little moments where they can afford a blip. But with Middlesbrough breathing down their necks and like I say, Hull City winning 8 out of 9 games, the chasing pack are really starting to turn the heat up a little bit at Ipswich, obviously on the corner there as well. Who wins this game?
I think it depends what is happening, because Coventry have stumbled to wins in the last couple of games, obviously against a pretty poor Leicester side, and it's a pretty good Millwall side. But again, they kind of stumbled into that win. A few moments of real quality that got them through, versus Norwich, who have hit some real form. And obviously, the last result against West Brom, incredibly eye-catching. But that was a win away at Wrexham, incredibly impressive. They got a little bit, the goals were quality, but got a little bit lucky, I think, on the run of play. And the West Brom game, really odd, because I think they managed to get 2-0 up in spite of it being a pretty even contest. And then once they got the 2 goals, West Brom completely lost their heads and just, they ran complete riot. So are they gaining confidence and getting better, or are they actually just getting lucky's maybe a bit harsh, but maybe a bit of rub of the green? And are Coventry building up a little bit and stumbling through and getting a bit better again, or are they kind of due a defeat and they're going to stop getting lucky? So I think it's a pretty tough one to call. I would imagine that Norwich at home would have some good feeling after a couple of difficult away wins. Difficult away assignments. I still think they might be a little bit susceptible at the back, and I think Coventry do still have a high amount of quality. So I can see it being a relatively high-scoring game that I think Coventry will come out just the right side of.
Yep, I'd go with that again. Yeah, it's obviously we've spoke about the confidence being up at Norwich, and I think that's fine. That's all well and good. And coming up against West Brom side and just taking every single chance that falls to them, like we say, the win at Wrexham was mad, brilliant result for them. But Coventry starting to click a little bit again with the wins against Leicester and Millwall. And we know the quality that they've got in that side. They've had a little bit longer of a rest this week as well, going into the Monday night game. And I just feel like Coventry just click back into gear a little bit here and just have a little bit too much for this Norwich side. But we shall see come tomorrow night. And I'm not writing off Norwich completely here. I think that if they've got some real confidence in their ranks, they're scoring some goals, and Clement's got them playing some decent football. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them get a result. I can't see them having enough to beat Coventry, but they could well have enough to take a point off them at least.
They will get chances. They absolutely will. I think Ali Ahmed as well has been a brilliant addition. He's such a direct player and incredibly creative with it. Very nearly won the MLS Cup for Vancouver against Messi's Miami. So the quality is there. They will get chances. It's going to be really about who takes them.
Absolutely. So I think we're both going for a Coventry win?
Yeah,
I'd go with that as well. So back to reviewing the weekend's games. We'll touch upon these last few games just really, really briefly. Starting on Friday night, Derby against West Brom. Obviously dug right in until the very end did West Brom. It looked like they'd lost another game away from home, but scoring late on and capturing a point.
It's a massive, massive goal, massive result from them. And again, it's one of those where I keep seeing the results and then I keep looking at the games, and they're playing very disjointed, and they are by no means a good side, but they're not quite this bad. I don't think they've got set pieces in their arsenal. They are very dangerous from them, kind of each and every time. It's about whether they can keep enough confidence to build on and start putting those performances together and stop being quite so disjointed. For Derby, it was a bit of a weird Derby performance because they had a lot of the ball, which they are not super comfortable with, to be honest. You could argue they got a little bit unlucky. I think a draw is probably a fair result, but Patrick Agyemang, again, another goal, who is a perfect focal point for a championship team.
So it's James, our colleague's favourite player is Patrick Adjiman. He's not a fan of Adjiman. But yeah, good result, I think, in the end for West Brom. Like I said, took a lot of character and dug in and a real big point for West Brom. Next game for West Brom is another away game at Portsmouth, who are absolutely looking down the barrel at the moment after today's draw down on the south coast in the derby against Southampton. A real blood and guts thunder derby, that one today. I don't know if you saw the game. It was just... First half was just so fast and such a rapid game, and it just seemed like neither team could really get a hold of the game, and it just seemed like they were both trying to hit each other on the break at times. And I think a draw was a fair result in this one in the end.
Yeah, it was a fair result. There was a lot going on. There wasn't necessarily an amazing amount of quality from it, but again, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's a very kind of derby game. There was a lovely kind of tasty bit with Ogilvie there on the touchline as well, which people say is not. Oh, we hate to see those scenes. No, we love to see those scenes. It's exactly what you want from a derby, as long as no one gets actually hurt. So it was good to see. Yeah, it was kind of what you expected. Lovely goal from Southampton, Cienza, set piece from Portsmouth. Be good for them to get back scoring a few set pieces. Yeah, at least they didn't lose that. Then you could start to get a little bit toxic potentially.
Maybe a slight handball in Portsmouth goal.
Maybe, but again, there's a lot going on in there. There is a lot going on in there.
There is a lot going on in there. There is. And next game we're going to talk about is Birmingham against Stoke. Another draw, another 1-1. Probably about right in the end, I think, cancelling each other out, these two sides. Stoke have obviously fallen away a little bit given their start to the season. Birmingham probably underachieving, you would think?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's just so stop-start with them. I can't really decide if they're a good team or an average team that have good players. It's a little bit difficult to decipher. Weird in that this happens at home. They have a little bit less of the ball, albeit they created a number of chances. I know Stoke are missing basically everyone. Their injury list is quite truly insane. So Birmingham will be very disappointed they couldn't take the chances that they made.
Yeah, like I said, I think these two just cancelled each other out a little bit. They're both in that little bit of a lull at this time of the season. We've got 16 games to go, and it'll be whether they can start putting a run of games together, these two will remain to be seen. But I think the result was about right in the end. Blackburn won, Watford won. The next game I'm going to talk about.
Yep. A difficult one for Watford to take, really, going to Blackburn, not capitalising on a really kind of toxic atmosphere going on there, getting pegged back so quickly as well after scoring the first will be pretty difficult to take. Blackburn getting a few players back, which is incredibly positive for them, because another team who have just lacked so many. Watford have hit maybe a little bit of a slightly stickier patch. Need to get out of it quickly if they want to start looking back up the table, and having just played Portsmouth and Blackburn, they've missed two really good chances to get back on the horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the real concern for me, Blackburn getting players back, is they're up against Hull City next, and we've already spoken about that. So we don't want these players to come back. Just give it another week.
Yeah, just let them get fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to talk about. I think it's the final game of the weekend. We're going to talk about it's Bristol City against Sheffield Wednesday. A 2-0 win for Bristol City in what looks to be, well, what was Barry Bannon's last ever Sheffield Wednesday performance.
Yeah, very sad to end that way. It sounds like it was a administrator's enforced sale, which is incredibly sad. Him sort of crying at the end there. For Bristol City, getting back to winning ways, kind of what you should be doing really against Wednesday, which is controlling the game, making a few chances, taking them. Again, Wednesday battling manfully, but not getting many shots on target, not having that much of the ball, letting Scott Twine score a header. None of these things are excellent. And it's it's.
I think you know your season's going against you when you get Scott Twine popping up with a header, don't you? Yeah. I mean, Scott's fair play to Scott Twine. He's coming up with a few goals this season, but a dominant performance for Bristol City in the 2-0 win, as you would expect. So that pretty much sums us up for this week, and it rounds up nicely going into the games ahead this week. And we will be back on Thursday to preview the weekend's games. I believe James will be back. So we will see you on Thursday or Friday. And if, like I said before, if you haven't subscribed to us, please do subscribe. Thank you to Tom for joining me for the Championship Lowdown this week. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Ollie.
And we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.